Page 7, Ode to Joy. On page 5, they're introducing you to a bunch of symbols and things that we use in written music. Now, it's really important that you know and understand what all the symbols are and what they mean and what they're for and all that. But I don't like having to go through a list and try and memorize a bunch of junk to get going. I don't care for that approach. So all of this stuff that's on page 5 and page 6, we are going to cover as we go through the book. I just prefer to cover it a little bit at a time. However, we do need some of this right off the bat. I mean, Ode to Joy uses a lot of this, so we need to understand at least most of it, I think. Now, I don't expect you to remember all this immediately, but we're going to go over it and over and over and as we go through the book. So hopefully before long you will know it because you've been through it so many times. On page 5, they show you what a note looks like. That's just one note. There's all kinds of notes. That's just an example. Don't get carried away. That's just a note. Big deal. Secondly, they show you the 5 lines. It's called a staff. It's kind of messy when they put the lines and spaces in it. It fills it up. But on the third example down, you'll see those 5 lines with a note in them. So the 5 lines is called a staff. And the note could be anywhere, on a line or a space. Now, when we say a note is on a line, we mean the line goes through the note. That means that's on the line. And the fourth example is then they give you a note in a space. So a note can be on a line or in a space. That's the choices. That's all you get. Moving down on the treble clef, there has to be something that tells us what the note is when it's in a staff, because a note could be anywhere. Well, we need something to tell us what it is, and it's the clef sign that does that. The treble clef sign, you see it looks weird. Hasn't always looked like that, but it looks like that today. It's close enough. And I'll talk more about the treble clef. It's also known as a G clef, but that tells us where the notes are in that staff. And then under that is the bass clef, is another clef sign. So we got 2 clef signs to learn in piano. We'll get there. We'll just take it slow and easy. We'll get there. At the bottom of the page, they talk about bar lines and measure lines. A measure is simply the space in between those vertical lines. That's called a measure. It's also called a bar. In some countries, they call it a bar, and I'm liable to call it either one. So the third measure would be the third space in between, or the third bar would be that. Those vertical lines they list as bar lines, they're also called measure lines, and I'm liable to call them either one. So bar and measure is interchangeable for the space or the vertical lines, either one. Now at the end of that, this is at the bottom page 5, at the end of the last example, you see a thin and thick bar line together. They call it a double bar, but I disagree with that. A double bar is actually something else. This is what's known as the end of a piece symbol. That means the piece ends there. So if you're into writing music or whatever, wherever your piece ends, make sure you put in a thin and thick bar line, because that's the end of the piece symbol. Now on page 6, they're talking about the right hand because Ode to Joy uses the right hand only. And they give a picture there of the hand on it. I don't agree with the picture, but let's talk about this carefully. When you put your hand on the keyboard, there's places you can put it up here, you can put it up here, you got it up here, you got it down here. It's liable to go anywhere, who knows. The idea is I want to keep the wrist as straight as I can, and I can't sometimes when I get down here. I got to do this, but only if I have to. Otherwise, I'm keeping the wrist straight. So the angle of the hand moves slightly with, and the left hand's the same thing. John Thompson does this too. They show it this way, where your hand is straight into the keyboard. No, please don't do that. Your hand might be straight into the keyboard when you're up here because it just happens to be there. But here, it's going to be at a slight angle, and that's what we want, just a slight angle. That's okay. You got to have it up far enough so the thumb can hit the key, because the thumb is short and you're out here, the thumb won't reach the key. It's got to be up close enough, but only close enough for the thumb to get in there to do its thing when it needs to. Unless you have to play the black keys, in which case sometimes you got to come up here, but we'll talk about that when we get to the black keys Let's work on the white keys first. Now, the names of the notes. We're going to start with these 5 notes. And I know what they are because on a keyboard, you'll notice there's white and black keys. And the black keys are arranged in groups of 3. Oh, that's a 2. That's 3, 3, and groups of 2. There we go. And it just repeats. So all together between this note, a group of 2, and this note, a group of 2, all together between those 2 notes, there's only 7 notes to learn. So we all have to deal with 7 notes. And we'll get there. We'll learn those 7 notes because they just repeat. These are the same, I'm talking note names here. Here. Now, we use letters of the alphabet for the note names. It's simply the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A through G. So that's all, you're just learning A through G in the alphabet. Now you need to memorize which note is which letter. And we're going to start with these 5 because Ode to Joy uses those. There are different ways of approaching this, and there are different systems. And people, sometimes they'll put stickers on the keys to remind them. If you need stickers on your keys, that's fine. I got no problem with it. Just keep in mind the stickers have to be temporary. You got to get to the point where you can take the stickers off. You know what the notes are, the keys are on the piano. So if you use stickers if you need to, but don't think they're there forever. Don't rely on them forever. You still need to learn the keys. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with what's known as middle C. That's sort of the starting point of a lot of stuff, middle C. And middle C is a C, a spatial C. And a C on the keyboard is at the bottom of a group of 2 black keys. There's a group of 2 black keys, and right there, that is a C. There's a lot of C's on the piano. They're all over the place. We got lots of C's to play with. But there's only one middle C, and that's going to be the C that's basically right in front of you. It's not in the middle of the piano, it's close, but it's going to be right in front of you. I'll explain later why it's called middle C. I don't want to introduce more stuff. Just right now, just know this is middle C. And they have it there at the bottom of page 6. You can see that at the very last, at the bottom of the page there, those notes, you have this C. It's on a little line below the staff. See, those 5 lines only give us so many notes. Sometimes we need more notes. And if we do, we add those little lines. Well, middle C's on a little line right below that staff, that top staff. It just goes up the alphabet. C, D, E, F, G. So I'll leave it to you to memorize these as quickly as you can because I refer to the note names a lot. So a D is in the middle of a group of 2, an E is above a group of 2, an F is at the bottom of a group of 3, and a G is in the lower middle. See, we have 2 middle notes in a group of 3. There's 2 middle notes, lower and an upper middle, and the G is lower middle. So we're using these 5 notes. And it's just up to you to work on this and drill yourself on the names of these notes on the keys, as well as the names of the notes in the music. This is get better and better, don't it? You see, the name of the note in the music corresponds to the name of the key on the piano. Look at Ode to Joy. The first note is on the bottom line of that staff. It's an E. Just memorize it's an E. In the music, you just memorize that bottom line in that treble clef. Remember the treble clef is that clef sign? The bottom line is an E. Now, there's help or aids to help you learn the names of the notes and spaces in there, and you can find them. You search for them. You see them all over the internet. For the treble clef, for the lines, we can simply pretend that the letter of each line starts a word, and that spells out a sentence. It reads out a sentence, and that's Every Good Boy Does Fine. So the bottom note is E for every. Then the next line would be G for good. If we keep going, boy, B, does, D, F, fine. And those are the notes. I know it sounds wonderful, that's all right. Those are the notes for the lines in treble clef. The space is the way they spell out a word, F-A-C-E. So the bottom space in there, it's the third note over in Ode to Joy. It's the third note over the F. F-A-C-E. So the spaces in treble clef spell out face, the word face. You can use these if it'll help you learn the notes in the music, because we got to put them together. So when you see that first note in the music in Ode to Joy on that bottom line, you're going to play this key on the piano, because that's an E in the music, and it is this E on the piano. Now we have a lot of E's on the piano. We got E, 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 they're all over. But there's only one E that corresponds to that note in the music, and that is this E. It's right above middle C. Remember middle C here? E. It's this E. And then, so, an Ode to Joy, we have two E's. And then the third note, that's an F. And then we have a G. That's the next to the bottom line. And then we're going down, F, E, and then below it is a D. And then in the third measure over, remember measures are the space between, okay. That's middle C here. It's got two of those, and a D and an E, E, D, D. I recommend you do a drill called Say It and Play It. That's what I call it anyway. It's where you play the note and say the note, or say the note and play the note. So you're going to start with your hand in this position, and you're going to use your fingers to finger on the key, whatever it is, and you just say the note at the beginning. E, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, C, D. Just go through the whole thing and play it and say it. Take your time. Drill yourself over and over until you're getting an idea of the names of these notes in the music. And hopefully at that same time you'll start to get an idea of the names of the keys on the piano, because we got 5 of them here. We only got 2 more to go. We got most of them already. Now for Ode to Joy, when I start a new piece of music, start learning a new piece of music, any piece of music, it could be easy, hard, whatever, I have a certain process or system I use to learn that piece of music, because I can't do everything all at once. Some people can, it's disgusting, but I can't. Now, if it's a real easy piece, I might be able to get everything at once. But typical pieces I'm learning are a little more difficult. I have to tackle it one thing at a time, and I kind of build it. I put it together. And that's the process I'm going to use in these videos. I'm going to use the same process. You will develop your own process, that's fine, whatever. But for these videos, I'm going to use my process. And the first thing I do for a new piece of music is I look it over, just a general look over, and I want, how long is it? How much? What am I getting into here? And I look at this and I see it's 4 lines long. Okay, no problem. I look at the clef signs. We have a treble clef in the top staff and a bass clef in the bottom staff. I always check the clef signs because they don't have to be that. They can change. You're going to love it. I know you are. Now for us, for a long time and going through this, the clef signs are going to be that. But I still go through it in the process. I get into the habit of this process. So I check the clef signs. Then I check the time signature. I haven't talked time signatures yet. I'll come back to the time signature in a minute. And then I take a look just generally on the notes. I see a bunch of these solid black notes, and then I see some empty notes in there. Okay. So now we still got to talk about time signature and those solid black notes and the empty notes. So let's talk about all that. Got to have all that. And don't worry if you're not getting all this. It's okay. I'm going to keep going over and over and over it as we go through the book. The time signature are those numbers at the beginning. That tells you how long to hold down each note. Because I can play a note, But I can play at different time. They're different lengths. And the time signature tells me how long I'm going to do this, help us out. Now, once you understand what the numbers mean, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. You can handle any time signature. The top number in a time signature tells you how far you're counting. In other words, I'm going to count to 4. Doesn't say a lot. It just, oh, you can count to 4. That's nice. Go away. No, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way of saying it is there's 4 counts in every measure. See the measures, distance between those vertical lines? So there's 4 counts in every measure. The bottom number tells me what I'm counting. If you're going to count something, it'd be nice to know what you're counting. And that 4 on the bottom stands for quarter note. So what's a quarter note? What? Okay, hang in there. We got different kinds of notes in music. Let's take a whole. They give an example at the top, page 7. You have a whole. A whole note is just a circle. We don't have any whole notes in Ode to Joy, but we'll get there. A whole note is a circle. If you take a whole note and cut it in half, you get 2 halves. A whole of anything, cut it in half, you get 2 halves. So 2 half notes are the same as a whole note as far as counting goes. Well, if I take a half note and cut it in half, I get a quarter, 2 quarters. Or I get 4 quarters in the whole note. You see, mathematically, it just divides in 2. Don't make this complicated. It's not. It just keeps dividing in 2. Well, the quarter note is what the bottom 4 is referring to. It's telling you there is the same as 4 quarter notes in every measure. Okay. So what's a quarter note? Well, they give it the examples up above. A quarter note is that solid circle with the stem. The line is called a stem. It's a solid circle with a stem. That's a quarter note. It's always a quarter. Now, in some countries, it's called other things. You know, it could be called a crotchet, depending on what country you're from. I had an English teacher, a British concert pianist, one of my teachers was, and she was educated and raised in England, and she called them crotchets and quavers and semiquavers and all that, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? And she kept having to translate it for me because I was confused on it. I'm going to use the American names here, so if you use some other names, you're going to have to translate it yourself. So I'm going to call a quarter note, and if you want to call it a crotchet, that's up to you, but I'm calling it a quarter note. And then the half note is the open circle, empty circle with the stem. And then the whole note is just an empty circle. And you'll need to know those. So I'm going to hold a quarter note down 1 count in this piece, because it gets 1 count. I'm going to hold a half note down for 2 counts, because there's 2 quarters and a half. So at the beginning, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one is a count. At the end of the line, 2, 3, 4. See, that last note is a half note. I got to hold it down for 2 counts. 3, 4, 1, and then I keep going. So the time signature tells us what gets a count and how many counts are in a measure, and it helps us to get the rhythm. Now, when I first learn a piece of music, if it's really tricky, I forget the rhythm. I just work on the notes. I'm just trying to get the notes down. I just want to know which notes. And it's up to you. Another challenge. Oh, you thought this would be easy, didn't you? Playing piano was easy? Yeah, right. It's up to you to remember which key each finger is on. So while I put my hand in this position, I know my 3rd finger is on E. Well, what's 3rd finger? I didn't talk about finger numbers. Okay, finger numbers right quick. You got 5 fingers on a hand. Most people do, unless you've lost a finger or whatever. I'm talking typical, 5 fingers on a hand. The thumb is 1, and it goes across from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you play a violin or something, it's different because they don't use the thumb. They only use these 4. So 1 is the 1st finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. But in piano, we use the thumb, so 1 is the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 5. So third finger is the middle finger. That's here. So third finger is here. And by doing that, that tells me where to put the hand. If my third finger's here, I'm going to put the hand here. I don't need any of these other finger numbers in this piece. I am very opposed to reading finger numbers. Some people will go in and they'll write in a finger number for every note. I would encourage you not to do that. You only need a finger number to tell you where your hand needs to be. Or if your hand needs to move, you need a finger number to tell you where to go. Otherwise, you got to know which key each finger is on. So the middle finger's on E, and that's where the hand goes. And then I'm just playing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You get the idea? You don't have to go that fast. You take it at your speed, but that's the idea. You just try and play this without looking at the keyboard. So you're remembering which key your finger is on. If you have to look down occasionally at first, fine, do what you got to do. But you want to get to where you can play this without looking at the keyboard. It's important. You need to develop a feel for the keyboard, where the notes are, and one note in relation to another note, and one key. So we'll just start at the beginning. Look it over. I got the notes. I got the rhythm. All that's in there. I can play it with no hesitations in it. It's a steady beat. Once I start that piece at the beginning, it's a steady beat all the way to the end. No hesitations. That's important. People get into the habit of hesitating, and that just ruins it. Please don't. If you're hesitating at first, fine, but you got to go back over those spots and get rid of those hesitations. So now I got the notes, and I got the rhythms, and I got no hesitations. And that, for this piece, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's enough. Good grief. I've been talking forever just to get this far. So I leave it to you to go through and learn this on your own, and then play it with me. I have a section in every video, or most every video, called Play With Me. That's where I play it really slowly, and you play it with me to make sure you're playing the same note I'm playing. That's how you can check, are you playing a wrong note or not? Well, if you don't have a teacher, how do you know? You play it with me, and hopefully you can tell by listening, is it the same note I'm playing or not? And that's how we can check that. Don't go there and listen to me play it first, and then go back and, oh, is that how it goes? Okay, and do that. Please don't. I want you to be able to learn to read the music yourself, to play it yourself, and have the confidence it's right. And then if you want to listen to others play it and compare it, that's fine. But don't listen to them first to see how it goes. Now, in most videos, somewhere in the video, I demonstrate the piece. I don't like demonstrating the pieces because that just encourages you to listen to me and then copy me. I don't want you copying me. I want you to learn to read the music and you do it yourself. So I don't put in where I put the demo in. I don't know if YouTube does or not, but I don't. Just go through the lesson. Listen to the lesson. So it's something like that. Let's play it together very slowly and make sure you have the same note I'm playing at the same time. I'll give us 4 counts. I'm going to go 1, 2, ready, go, and then we go. 1, 2, ready, go.